All right, welcome folks to Gordium, where we generate, evaluate, and execute on startup ideas. Today, you're diving into our idea stream where we crack open the idea vault and put ideas in. So you kind of get to see us brainstorm and get a peek behind the curtain really early on while we're still thinking about ideas. So um, today's problem is that flu shots are only effective after adequate sleep.
Well, I believe, isn't it they're more effective after?
Yeah, yeah. So flu shots have diminished effectiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, flu shots are
So
less
basically,
effective after inadequate sleep. Yep.
yeah, perfect.
And so we found this out in the great book Why We Sleep, which we both really highly recommend. But Neil,
Mhm.
you also did you see this come up in the book you
Well,
read recently?
no, I
Okay.
just read a book on the Spanish flu. So, um, yeah, general flu information I've got, floating around in my brain.
Yeah. Um, what do we I feel like there's some context here that would be useful, but so I guess like sleep has an outsized impact on your immune
Immune,
response.
yeah, your immune system. So, like for example,
Here
some
we go.
old research. This was from the Why We Sleep book, but some old research where they sleep deprived rats until they died. What ended up killing the rats was just some bacteria that they always have in their digestive tract, and the sleep deprivation, um, yeah, compromised their immune system to such an extent that a benign bacteria that they always deal with killed them.
Oh, so it's yeah, so it's really when you sleep deprive yourself, like if you take it to that extreme, it's because of actually bacterial infection. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, which is this is just like fascinating because what is it like stats from the Why We Sleep? What is it like? This actually concerned me about driving. I might have had a point in here
Oh,
about driving,
yeah.
but it's like something upwards of 50% of America doesn't get enough sleep. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy. And then, yeah, after what was it? 16, 18 hours of being awake. It's like being at the legal limit of blood alcohol content. Um, so, which, yeah, just crazy. Sleep does so much. Um, but I guess a little bit of a tangent there.
yeah, well, I
So,
think these are kind of the levers involved, though. I think that this kind of presents how big of a problem it is because think about how big of the push for flu shots is and how much money is invested in that. And to think that,
yeah,
of the people who get flu shots, how many are actually sleeping adequately and how much protection does a flu shot actually provide if you're
yeah.
not actually well
Well,
rested,
and you can, think about as your efficacy goes up, you need less people to get it, to get herd immunity,
Yeah.
right?
Those are some huge levers. Yeah. Um so the levers that dramatically decrease the required vaccinations to hit human herd immunity. Yeah, and then I mean this would just like saves tons of money,
Mm-hmm.
like saves actual lives. Like this is a really actually like
Yeah,
fascinating problem to solve. And it
yeah. I mean,
reminds me, yeah,
tens of thousands of people die in the states every year from flu.
which and it reminds me of Switch, which is a book written by Dan Heath and his brother. Um, one of the stories they tell in there is these humanitarians went to a country in Southeast Asia, and they had a very limited budget, and they were trying to improve infant mortality. And what they did was they watched like mothers whose children survived and were really healthy, and they called it like finding bright spots. So they found bright spots, and what they found was those mothers fed their children more often, so 4 meals instead of 2, and then those mothers also, when in the rice fields, they would grab shrimp and supplement their children's diet with those, and by just simply feeding children more meals a day, the same amount, plus supplementing with like shellfish that were found in the rice fields, it like was a 50% reduction in infant mortality or something crazy like that. And this feels like a similar like lever that if you push it, you could really get some huge impact out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the book I read in 2005, President Bush read it. And after he read it, he asked, and Congress approved $7 billion for pandemic preparedness.
Oh my God.
So, you know, there is realization, you know, that flus are bad.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Yeah. And we've put a lot of money. We put a lot of money towards this.
In some ways we've put a lot of money, and then in others, like in the afterword of that book, he was talking about you know, comparing the flu with West Nile virus and how much money we put into, you know, West Nile virus, which I think he said in, you know, a 10-year span had killed like 500 people,
Uh,
and doesn't have the potential
oh,
to scale to a pandemic.
yeah. Yeah, because it's mostly transmitted by
Yeah, it's transmitted
insects.
by, you know, mosquitoes. It doesn't, you know, it won't transmit peer to peer. And there's
Mm,
another very similar virus that basically went extinct, you know, just due to normal, you know,
hmm.
human patterns. And whereas the flu, you know, it seems, you know, every day. So it's, you know, we perceive it as not a big deal, but yeah,
Exactly.
thousands of people die from the flu every year.
Well, it's just wild looking at the numbers of from the pandemic. You know, when we were isolating because of COVID, the flu numbers were down. So like it's just crazy.
Mhm.
It was hard to recognize. It reminds me a lot of car fatalities. Like it's, you know, one of the leading causes of death in the United States, but we don't like it's hard to conceptualize that until it's gone, you know?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, even thinking about, you know, maybe masking and selective periods of time to prevent the flu, you know, in addition to this, like that combination could be super, super powerful.
Yeah.
You drastically reduce spread while pumping up immunity, you know.
Yeah.
And then this kind of feels like something that Nudge would apply to
Yeah.
as well, which was
Yeah.
a great book, kind of in a similar vein of Switch, but a little bit more behavioral economicsy
Yeah.
than Switch, which is a little more social sciencey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Um,
what are some solutions?
well, so one idea I had was an app that kind of screens for sleep and then tells you proactively when to get a shot. So you could use like Apple Health.
How do you feel about that after reading Surveillance Capitalism?
Well, see, the thing about surveillance capitalism, it just depends on how your data is used. So I
Mhm.
really like the distinction they made in that book, which is that, like, um, for example, Google started out what they would do with their user data is they would anonymize it and invest it in making search better, right?
Yep.
So for a long time, that's actually what they did, and that's really positive. And that's generally Apple's business model is we're going to take user behavior and we're going to reinvest it into our products
Yep.
instead of selling it to a third party. So in this case, I would actually feel really good. For
Mhm.
example, about Apple Health versus something Androidy or Amazon, those are scarier to me. Um, but potentially using your Apple Health data, because mine tells me vaguely near how much sleep I've gotten.
Mhm.
You could kind of time it. Um, yeah.
Well, so I think we've sort of got two different, um, you know, we want our flu shots to be as effective as possible. but I would rather someone get a flu shot and have it be less effective than not get it at all. So how can we, because if it's like, okay, now I need to, wait until I had a good night of sleep and then, go get the shot. That'd be,
Yeah.
challenging. It'd be interesting, for like a switch or a nudge, what if instead we say, okay, on the weekends, people are able to sleep
Get
in,
more sleep. Yeah.
so they get more sleep. What if we just go around door to door on the weekend and bring it to them? Or yeah, focus all our, our free time to get, flu shots is on the weekends.
Yeah. To maximize both number of shots and amount of sleep.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Just saying, okay, we can't get all the, health information, the sleep information. And if we did, it might hinder the vaccine, like the total number administered. But is
Yeah.
there a generalization we can use?
Yeah.
Not just the weekend.
Instead of increasing sleep, go to where sleep is already higher.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really interesting idea. Yeah.
Well, and then I'm guessing not only, the general pattern of that book, I don't remember in this specific instance, but the sleep after matters just as much as before.
Yeah.
So, maybe that means Saturday, maybe that means, on Fridays.
Yeah, that's actually what to target.
Yeah.
Or you could partner with companies to give like a morning off.
Yeah. Yeah. Or a like early release on a Friday. Say, okay, we're ending. If you're going to go get your vaccine, you can leave, at 2 on Friday.
That's actually a really interesting idea because that has a lot of payoff, you know. If you can if people aren't getting sick during winter, you can really, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
This reminds me of I don't have it in this vault, but I used to have trouble going to sleep. I was a night owl. It was funny. I tried to stay up last night till like 2 in the morning, and I just barely made it. I used to be up till 4 or 5 most nights, but so I wanted this pill that I would take that would just knock me out at a certain time every night. And it just kind of reminds, like that's a very heavy-handed solution to this is
Mhm.
um, just knocking yourself out at a certain time of night and making sure you sleep. Which in Why We Sleep, that approach is really bad actually because when you artificially induce sleep, it messes with your pattern. So
Yes.
read that book because when you talk about melatonin, when you talk about sleep aids, those are all messing with your sleep,
Melatonin
actually.
can have specific instances where it's all right.
That's true. If you have difficulties with what it's
Well, like
onset.
jet lag specifically, he
Oh,
mentioned it being, quite good.
yeah. Yeah, but
Um,
as a nightly remedy,
yeah.
it's gonna mess with your sleep. But all right.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have to contribute. This is really rich. I feel like this would be a fun one to write a studio about, but
Yeah. I think it'd be, intriguing to.
and see if we could get this out to public health. I think this is an interesting time to put something out like this.
Yeah.
All right, stage ratings. I'm thinking of mine here. I think I have mine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, what do you got for motivation?
0.
I've got a 1. I'm similarly not like crazy.
I think it's intriguing. But yeah, I think sort of like sleep is intriguing in a one book sense and not much more than that.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Expertise, what do you have?
I have a 0. I really know very little. I
Yep.
feel like. Um,
I have one book's worth of knowledge with one subsection about vaccines.
Impact.
I give it a 2.
I think this is a huge. I think this is probably one of the biggest impact problems we've tackled.
Yeah.
And I think it. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be really interesting to get this in the right hands.
Yeah.
Um, I think this then becomes a studio, right? Is that
That becomes a
accurate?
not or not now. Motivation is
Oh,
below
motivation
1.
needs to be. That kind of ticks me off. I want to do something with that one. All righty. Well, thank you folks for joining us. And, we will
Maybe
not be
next time
pursuing
Jimmy won't
this.
get ticked off.
I know. I'm ticked off about this. Please, if you watch this and you're interested, let us know, and let us know what you do with it. This would be a fun one to see something happen. So,
Yeah.
all right. Thanks for joining us, folks. Have a good one.